सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। Page 26, 71, page number, sorry, shloka number 26, page number 71. ātmano vikriyā nāsti buddherbodho न jātviti buddherbodho न jātviti jīvaḥ sarvamalaṃ jñātvā jñātā draṣṭeti muhyati. Yesterday we saw a very important logic, and that shloka was given without the support of any other example. ātmanah saccirāṃsascha buddhehe vrittihi iti dvayam. When the conscious principle reflects in the buddhi assumes the two aspects of the Atma Chaitanya, Dvayam, the Sat and Chit aspect. Illumined by that, the buddhi gets the capacity to illumine, understand, grasp the world around. There is no other method. Every one of us goes through this particular method alone to perceive. How quickly we do it, how do we respond to it, depends on each person's capacity and capability. but the method is the same. So here, there is this reflected consciousness in the buddhi, and the buddhi starts assuming things. Why does it assume? Avivekena. Aviveka, lack of proper discrimination. And in that lack of discrimination, we conduct ourselves saying, I know. To put it in an example, in the modern day, when we turn the lights on, we need the electric connection and the proper bulb. Bulb by itself does not illumine. Electricity by itself does not illumine. Without the bulb, there is no expression. Without the electricity, there is no possibility of illumination. Get this concept. Without electricity, there is no expression possible, because that is the source. Without the bulb, there is no expression, because there is no svata siddhatva. It doesn't have the capacity. A combination of this both alone expresses as that inherent capacity of the bulb to illumine. Just because the electricity is illumining the bulb, to limit it, saying that that which is coming forth as light is called electricity. No, that is the limitation of that particular vastu. If it is enlivening the fan, then it is the movement of the air. If it is something which is coming through the air condition, those are all the limitations of that particular instrument. The same thing, Adi Shankaracharya doesn't change the concepts. The way of expressing this concept is what gets seemingly changed when you look at the profound work called Saundarya Lahari. The way he begins, the very first shloka, Shiva Shaktya Yukto Yadi Bhavati Shaktah Prabhavitum Na Chedevam Devo Na Khalu Kushalas Panditumapi Atasvamaradhyah. We'll take up until then. Shivaha Shaktya Yuktaha. Shiva and Shakti are the eternal, inseparable. Shiva is independent of Shakti, Swatantra. But if he has to express, he can express only through Shakti. Because Shakti is in full display doesn't mean that the Shakti has the ability to independently express. Has to be touched by, enlivened by, divinized by Shiva. Therefore, we also say that Paramatma is not supreme energy. Energy is still inert. Why is it inert? Energy is a subtle expression of mass, matter. I am connecting a little bit of science here. We say E equals mc square. M is mass, c is the speed of light. So there is a modification of the material, the mass. When the matter is modified, energy is produced. We see that. That is how we produce energy. Something has to happen to the matter. Meaning matter's transformation is verily energy. So matter and energy are not two different. Energy is a subtle format of expression of matter alone. Then how can we say that which is the jada vastu called matter, expressing as energy, as Paramatma, supreme energy? Shakti is different. Paramatma is not, or Ishvara is not Shakti, however supreme that Shakti be. He is the Shaktiman, the one who is endowed with that Shakti, and if he wants to express through, he expresses through that Shakti. Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. See, even in our day-to-day transactional, now I am speaking, I am using the capacity of speech. Can I stay independent of the speech? I just have to shut up. Various Shaktis, the ability to see, the ability to smell, the ability to hear, the ability to taste, touch. Can I stay independent of it? Of course, I can stay independent of it. All that I have to do is withdraw the senses, close my eyes. If there was no independence, then even to fall asleep, I would have been scared. Because all the dependency is gone. But I am independent. You're seeing the practical understanding even in a day-to-day life. But there is this subtle mixture of something that happens. That happens in the buddhi alone. There is a reflection, and the reflection immediately identifies. As soon as that identification happens, the perception starts happening. And when the perception happens, I immediately say, I know. Janami. Or if it is not perceived properly, I say, na janami. What is integral in these both statements of janami and not janami is aham janami, nāhaṃ janami. I come to know. I am not able to know. What is integral is that I. That I is also borrowed. Dvayam. What are the two that is borrowed? Sat and Chit are expressing in the reflected consciousness which I assume to be. Now comes the critical question. Catch the question clearly. That is when the next sloka will be clear. Very subtle concepts. When we say realization happens, who exactly is realizing? Atma Chaitanya is of the nature of Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swarupaha. Nitya, eternal, Shuddha, immaculate, pure. Nitya Shuddha. Whenever we say Shuddha, it is Buddha also. Buddha conscious. Nitya Shuddha Buddha Sarvada Mukta Swarupaha. It was never bound. There was no paricchinnata, there is no limitation in that Atma Chaitanya. Muktasya ka muktihi. That which is ever liberated, never bound, it is not seeking mukti. There is no need for it to seek mukti. Buddhi by itself, extending to the entire aspects of the antakarana, is jada. It is made up of different processes of panchikarana. Some are panchikrita panchamahabhutayaha, the rest are apanchikrita panchamahabhutayaha. There are that which are grossified, there are that which are not grossified. What are we talking of? Grossification and not grossification is matter. Panchamahabhuta is matter. Matter is of the nature of jadatva, and that which is inert cannot seek realization. Neither the buddhi wants realization, nor the Atma Chaitanya cares for realization. Now I understood, Swami. Therefore, people are not interested in spirituality. You're getting the point? Who then is seeking realization? Only a handful who have nothing else to do in the morning. Seem to be seeking it. On all seriousness, who is seeking this? It is the buddhi endowed with the reflected consciousness, identified with from the layer of buddhi to the outside. That identification feels limited. And that limitation is apadita, superimposed. Therefore, want to be delimited, unlimited. The need to be delimited is because I know that I am unlimited. Therefore, there is that seeking. Buddhi by itself cannot, Atma Chaitanya by itself doesn't need to. It is that vyamishra, avivekena vyamishritya. That khichdi that gets to happen when that conscious principle is reflecting. Why does the buddhi reflect? Because it is by its nature being subtle, it will reflect. समझ रहे? Even after realization, that continues. Just because there is a reflection doesn't mean that the sun stops shining. अरे पता नहीं, कंपटीशन ज़्यादा हो गया, because there are a lot of reflections. Therefore, I feel a sense of competition. Therefore, I shut. No, it doesn't make an iota of difference to how many surfaces reflect. And the reflection happens because of the subtlety. It is helpless in that aspect. Why does buddhi reflect? Because that is its nature. Even after realizing, will it reflect? Isn't it the buddhi's nature? It will reflect. What happens in that realization? That I am the limited entity which is reflecting, that misunderstanding is gone. That wrong understanding is gone. When it is replaced with the proper understanding, which is I am that self which is of this nature. Therefore, continuing, we have already seen the shloka, I have to go into the meaning of it. ātmanaḥ vikriyā nāsti. The Atman does not have any kind of kriya. The moment you say there is kriya, kriya is born only in limitation. And that becomes a scar, a mala. Atma is vimala. Na asti buddhehe bodhaha na jātu iti. And buddhehe svataha bodhaha na jātu iti. Buddhi by itself as an instrument does not have the capacity of bodha, because it is jada. But buddhi is the one that is recognizing everything and say, I know. See, when we have conversations, especially in the Indian language context, we not only say that, I know, but we also acknowledge, supposing we are having a conversation, the other person is actually clarifying, but then we give a confirmation saying, correct. Correct. I know, and you are correct. You are the one that is being educated. And then you become the examiner who is also qualifying. Yes, you are correct. I know, and all the other attributes that follow. I know, I alone know, I know better than you. All of these aspects come after that. So if this core point is understood, the later, the matrix of the gamut of things that it spins forth are just the byproducts of it. Buddhehe bodhaha svataha na jātu iti. I am just adding one word there, svataha. By itself, it does not have the capacity of bodha. The moment there is that jīvaṃ, sarvamalaṃ, everything, verily, alam, verily, sarvam, alam, everything, verily, jñātva, start saying, I know, he becomes jñātā, draṣṭa, ityādi. Jñātṛ, draṣṭru, bhoktru. This tru pratyaya comes in. I am the knower. I am the doer. I am the enjoyer. I am the observer. Draṣṭeti, kartri, doer. Bhoktri, enjoyer. Jñātā, knower. And from there on, exists in an expression called muhyati. Muhyati in moha. Moha, delusion. As a deluded individual. So technically when somebody gets answered, are you deluded or what? Yeah. Are you not? Are we all not? Therefore, Adi Shankaracharya in his other work, he says, the greatest sin is to live and express as a limitation. That is the papa. Wherever there is papa, there is tapa. In Telugu language, when we say, don't worry, what is the word that we use? Tapatraya padaku anantam. Such a beautiful word, very expressive. Tapaha traya. We experience tapa at 3 stages, or 3 levels, or 3 layers. Sharirika, Manasika, Bauddhika. At whatever level, do not have tapa. Tapatraya ma bhavatu. We use it as a very colloquial day-to-day language. Parvaledandi. Tapatraya padakandi. Where does that tapatraya word come from? It comes from this deep understanding of Vedanta that tapa is the effect. Where, if we have followed Puja Gurudev's logic of spirituality, he says that the effects can be plenty, multi. The cause is one. There he is using it for a different purpose. Here I am just borrowing that logic. What is the cause here? It is of this, wherein I identify and start dragging my sorry self as a limitation. And therefore we constantly keep doing the abhyasa of that limitation. Papoham, papakarmoham, papātmā, papasambhava, trāhimāṃ kripayā dehi, sharanāgata vatsala. So what is the papa that we are talking? That which cannot be limited, which is my true nature, which has been constantly there, always available. There is no paricchinnata there, it is swachhanda, it is swatantra. Therefore, the Shastra says, Swatantram hi sarva sukhasya karanam, paratantram hi sarva dukkhasya karanam. Wherever we are swatantra, not being manipulated, tantrita, manipulated, ordained, orchestrated by anything or anyone else. That is why there is a reaction. that whenever somebody says do this or don't do this, we immediately have a very vehement reaction to it. Even in the school, if you observe, that one day of the year when you alone can break the rule of not being in school uniform. The glow beaming forth on their face is अपन आज अलग है. Even when you have to wear the uniform, that day when you have the slightest of the reason to break that uniform code, it will be a small little insignificant cut on the foot. But they will put such a big bandage so that they can wear chappal. Why? Apun alag hai. Where does that defiance come? To defy, you are making me tied up to this. Therefore, even when the Guru is giving the discipline for our mukti, it seems suffocating. We revolt against it. And the Guru says, wake up early in the morning, firu shuru kar diya re baba. How early? Is 8 o'clock okay? And Guru also has sense of humor. AM or PM? Sarcastically asks. Earlier than that, 7:45, we start having the bargain. Brahma Muhurta Kala. Yo. I had to wake up at that time. Eating, you have to have this discipline. Sleeping, you have to have this discipline. Waking up, doing, you have to have this discipline. This feels more suffocating than what I was doing outside. Outside of the sadhaka life, I could do whatever I feel like doing, whenever I feel like doing, however long I feel like doing, if I want to do or not do. That, for a normal, ordinary mind, seems to be the heights of swatantrata. See, whenever the kid gets the opportunity, as soon as the basic studies are done, they want to do their masters. That's it. The family, is such a bondage. Therefore, kahin dur, like far away. Far away. From here you go to America. The same thing even there, those who live there. Those who are in Florida will go to Seattle. Those who are in Seattle go to New York. Those who are in New York go to San Diego. 4 different corners. Alag, dur. Why? If they are a drivable distance also, it is a paratantrata. They can come anytime. Chance ही नहीं ले लेना. दूर. परतंत्रम ही सर्व दुःखस्य कारणम. स्वतंत्रम ही सर्व सुखस्य कारणम. But it is swatantra, not tantrita by, not manipulated by mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, not manipulated by organs of perception, organs of action or prana, nor manipulated by the world of things and beings. To be completely independent. That is our nature. Therefore, any sort of discipline, we revolt against it, we defy it. Just asking people to say that, bhaiya, please put your cell phones in silent mode. They will say, yes, Swami, बहुत strict है. अरे मैंने किसी को मुर्गा नहीं बनाया. Just asking, requesting, please don't be the source of a nuisance to others. See, quite liberal I am. Even if you doze off during the lecture, I don't wake you up. Yes, I might object to you if you start snoring. Swamiji, do you know when people fall asleep in your lecture, that means it is very boring? No, I don't take it that way. Poor fellow has not had proper sleep for a long time. This is a satsanga benefit. One of the positive benefits. Now, snoring is a little too much. Wherever we can find means to delimit ourselves from anything that which is paratantra, outside influence and impact, however big be the influencer. Otherwise, we are living a life of addictions. Society morally says certain addictions as bad, but to begin with, to be addicted as the limited entity itself is bad. Primordial bad. And as soon as we get identified, it will immediately reflect as tapa. So how do I know if I am walking the path? A very subtle observation. If the tapa that I am facing is reducing, when I say reducing, do not understand or misunderstand it as absent. The aberration may still continue. Understand it this way. When the wave realizes that its essential nature is water, it doesn't mean that the wavy nature will disappear. That will continue. Just because one day all waves suddenly sat down, Samuhika Yoga Day, and everybody immediately, instantly realized. And people standing at the ocean suddenly got a scary, eerie feeling. What? There was no movement. All the waves subsided. What happened? Realization happened. They all realized that they are water. But were you not water when you were in the wave? The impact of that tapa is reduced. Understand that for that much subtle layer, disidentification is happening. Just by saying mana nāhaṃ, buddhi nāhaṃ, chitta nāhaṃ, and swinging in that tune, this is a very, catchy tune. Mano buddhyahankar चित्तानि नाहम्। अरे भैया, एंजॉयर नहीं बनना है। Even the meditation has been reduced to the level of a laddu. This is being enjoyed, that is also being enjoyed. You become another enjoyer. Now a new vastu has been added into your list. You like pickle, you like whatever food, whatever soft tissue, comfort, all of that. One more added into the list. I am enjoying my meditation these days. Gai has pani. Again lost. Again we have limited ourselves. The whole effort is to delimit. Am I able to convey it? The moment there is the hood of enjoyership, doership, we become, though it is a ship, we are sinking. And then the classic example is taken. Twenty-seventh shloka. Rajjusarpavadātmānaṃ jīvaṃ jñātvā bhayaṃ vahet nāhaṃ jīvaḥ parātmeti cennirbhayo bhavet. What is the classic example? वहीं पे अपना लुचि है. It is not the snake and the rope example. See, as we grow Vedantically, I think our vocabulary also has to become subtle and specific. It is not the example of snake and the rope. It is the example of snake on the rope. You see the difference? When you say there is snake and the rope, snake also is Satya, rope also is Satya. There is no superimposition. The moment you say snake on the rope or snake rope assumed as snake, that is even precise. But it is not snake and rope. Here it is not that much of a possibility of snakes. There are ashrams which are built in wilderness, and so there are a lot of snakes. You went into their space. What can those poor things do? In Dallas, we used to conduct youth empowerment programs. What 6 or 7 we had conducted. The ashram, one of the biggest facilities or the biggest facility of Chinmaya Mission, is filled with third most poisonous snake on the entire globe. Filled with. So I keep telling them, Baba, in this ashram, don't assume that it may be a snake. Be with the confirmed wisdom that it is a snake and steer clear away from it. Just because you have heard this example, don't be foolish enough to go poke and interact with it. It might turn around and you might have a devastating effect. Even in a place where you know there cannot be snakes, evening, just around sunset time, as you are crossing and climbing up the ramp to reach to this hall, in the bushes, you saw something wavy, moving, and you suddenly froze. Sometimes the fear is so intense that you do want to scream on the top of your lungs. आता नहीं है. It just stops there. And then you start, there is no clarity in the shout. So somebody nearby rushes in. And they did not see what you have seen. That wavy nature, sudden movement. So they are not that scared, or they are not that fear factor. They go check. And if they are of a mischievous nature, they would pick it and throw it at you. Now what happened in that example? You realize that it is a rope. When you perceived very clearly that it was like a wavy movement, slithery movement, have you ever touched a snake? It is slimy, it is slippery, it is cold to touch. Yeah, I have touched. There are shows in America where people have snakes as pets. And they will bring it as show, like people can, under supervision, play around with it. There was I think it was a boa constrictor. That fellow put it around my neck. I was like, oh Shiva, eternally you have been having one around your neck, how do you carry it? That is why you are shifting. Not my cup of tea. It's not bhari hai. And that cold touch, even thinking of it, it is like, that nature of snake is not there in that rope. But you have projected that with your imagination, superimposition. Now when this superimposition is realized as soon as you throw some light on it, with a stick from distance, and you see that it is not snake-vat, it is actually a rope. Does that snakeness superimposed on that rope slowly withdraw? Or is it takshana, immediate? If ajnana removes jnana, that is what we call as moksha. how can we say that in my sadhana I have grown? I think I am 80% at it. However deep the sadhana that we say, however long that we are doing sadhana, there are only two stages. Either you are realized or you are not. There is no intermediary stages, percentages. बड़े पहुंचे हुए महात्मा है, पहुंचे हुए तभी जब तब आत्म साक्षात्कार हो गया. Otherwise, all in the same boat. Just because you have decked yourself up on a different deck doesn't mean it is any better. A glorified ignorance or a non-glorified ignorance, it is still ignorance. So don't waste your sadhana in comparisons and trying to say, I am a better sadhak than you. A wrong comparison. A wrong parameter to even think of. Either you are or you are not. Either it is a snake or it is a rope. There is no in between. But Swamiji, I have these visions. I have this esoteric experiences. I have this very mysterious experiences. When you say all of this, there is a draṣṭa, darshana, right? There is that triputi that is there. Experiencer, experiencing, and the experienced. However mysterious, mystical that may be, it still comes under the realm of ajnana only. Therefore, in Ishavasyopanishad he says, Dvo vidye veditavye. There are two kinds of vidya. Even when you know, it's almost like saying that is where the trouble starts. Because you have become the knower. Limited again. Kenopanishad uses a completely different language. Yadi manyate su vedeti, no na vedeti vedacha. If you think that you have grasped it, understand that you have understood nothing. And that kind of throws us off. That is very confusing. No, because we are still trying to understand and grasp, being the limitation. If we ever had experience to be able to separate ourselves out and see that I am not that which I am being limited with, that is when there is a possibility to say, yes, there is a possibility to stay out of it. Therefore, the primary sadhana is given. So that there is sharira tadatmyata, which is distanced. The bodily identification is distanced. Then I see, oh, this is a possibility. I can exist independently without being identified with this body. I can exist independent of my emotions. initially when I can somehow control it. At a later stage, even if it is a big wave of emotion, I can see, watch it, acha theek hai. There is a pattern that has risen. But I am not the pattern. I can clearly see it. I have experienced that separation. Therefore, such prepared mind, when it gets this message, the grasping and the knowing, the non-grasping and the not knowing, both are illumined in my illumination. Therefore, being the knower also is a limitation. There is no intermediary stage. All the rest of the sadhanas are still in the realm of avidya. And in avidya, what is the reason to compare? It is still avidya. If you read Gurudev's commentaries, there he says, whether it is an iron shackle or a golden shackle, bhaiya, it is still a shackle. It is still limiting. Whenever I am better, that is the sattvic ahankara. I can sit and do this japa for these many hours. I can memorize all the shlokas. I can close my eyes and not be shaken, withdraw completely. All of this I can is still in the realm of avidya only. Wherever this superimposition and limitation happens, we soon want to get to a corner of a comfort zone. And that comfort zone is the suffocation. It is like the worm trying to build a cocoon around itself, feeling the sense of security. And that security environment itself is your bondage. Now, what is the fear there? That which is mine has to be kshema. That which is yet to be mine, I have to somehow plot and scheme to grab it. What if? There are several what ifs. Therefore, in a question answer session, if somebody were to start with the question saying, what if? I don't entertain that question. I say, what if not? Good deal. Because andas cutting, perfect fitting kabhi nahi hota. You go to a tailor and say, I have to take your measure. And say, andas se kar do. And then you expect a perfect fitting. One will be loose, one will be tight. The same cloth, one particular place it will be tight. It cannot be done under a guesstimate. Guessing and estimating. Guesstimate. Then what is it? Just in the knowledge, nāhaṃ jīvaḥ parātmeti iti jñātā cennirbhayo bhavet. The only place where nirbhayatvam can be ascertained is when the knower, the known and the knowing becomes one. And that awareness is my true nature. Not in the limitation sense of being this jīvaṃ, the pseudo entity of existence. We'll continue tomorrow. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतंगमय। ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।